everyone, this is Tony from Her Homestead Skills, and yes, I did put another batch of chicken stock together this morning, and it is just cooling off now so that I can wash the jars, label them, and put them away. And it's becoming rather a routine, and probably best to allow it to become a routine rather than have prepping fatigue set in, and I'm starting to feel that a little bit, but I'm fighting that. I think we need to fight it because we still don't know what the future holds. And all the signs point to things just getting worse. Just keep hearing more about job losses, but we are hearing about job losses already. So some people have already they didn't even wait till Christmas before they announced certain job losses. And that seems to be happening across the board. And we know that there's a recession. We just don't know how bad the recession is going to be, whether it is a depression or a recession that is short-lived. It doesn't feel like it's one that's short-lived. It feels like we're going through some very dark times. And what's causing those dark times? War, economics, bad governance. You name it, it just seems to be one thing on top of another on top of another. Famine, bad weather. Nothing seems to be going right. And perhaps that makes the Christmas message even more valid and more important. And we have to try and find some joy in life someplace. Christmas should be a joyous time, and it will be for me. I will be seeing my children and grandchildren all in one room, everyone together, and that doesn't happen very often. So in that respect, that will be a wonderful day. And I'm hoping that you all have the same. Anyway, I have to believe that more people are beginning to heed the signs and the warnings, and more people are worried about their future and what's going to happen. Many of us caught on 2 years ago, and we knew this day was coming, and it just seems to be we're on the threshold of something. And so far, it seems to be Russia and Ukraine, Europe, the Middle East, that seems to be mostly affected. Although we're not immune. Okay, my channel has always been about stocking up food and prepping food and storing food and methods of preserving foods. So it has been mostly related to that aspect. I'm also a very keen gardener and would probably do a whole lot more of it. Every year at this time I start getting the fever and start planning for next year. So gardening is also very important to me. Now, if you know what, it would be lovely if I was on a piece of land and I could do a lot more things, keep animals, keep chickens at the very least, but I'm not. So I am limited, and I think a lot of us are. It's not everyone that has a farm and can raise their own pigs and chickens and cows and slaughter their own meat, and so some of us, the best we can do is a little backyard garden, and very careful how we shop. So maybe I'm in this particular spot for a reason today. I mean, I've always had my lovely backyard garden, which I treasured, and Even this time of year, I used to step out into the garden and brush away the snow and find areas close to the house where probably some heat had escaped and parsley was thriving at this time of year. So I do miss that, but there's always a reason for everything. And perhaps the reason I'm where I am now is to show that even in a smaller environment with no garden of your own, you can do something. You can preserve foods. You can find ways to store foods. You can find ways to try and look after yourself and your future and see what you can do to assist yours and put away a little bit extra all the time. It can be done, even in an environment where we have to use closets and under tables and all kinds of little areas to put away some extra food. Yes, I used to have a root cellar. I guess you'd call it that. We used to call it a cantina, which was a cold room. I would call it was a cold room. And we would hang sausages there, and I would keep a lot of my preps there. And okay, I don't have that today. And yes, I could do things like my pickles and my sauerkraut and keep them in that cold room, and they were perfect. And I could keep whole cabbages and potatoes and squashes there fresh and just go down into that cold room and pick them, and they were still almost as good as though I was picking them out of the garden. So yes, I do miss that, and I'm working to try and develop that again sometime in the future, but hopefully it'll happen. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. So I'm here now making the best of the situation that I'm in and preparing as best I can for difficult times ahead. And I think that we can all do something with what we have. It may not be the ideal, it may be limited, but we can all do something. So I still strongly encourage everyone to do the best they can with the circumstances that they have. There are dark times ahead. I have no idea what's going to bring it on. It's just a bad feeling that things are going to get pretty bad. And I don't know if it's just listening to others as well. Everyone's concerned about it. There was a time where nobody seemed to be concerned. Nobody seemed to be taking an interest, and then you'd have to wonder whether you were just imagining things. Yeah, there were times you wonder, well, am I putting things away because I'm being a little bit foolish and a little bit paranoid? But no, it's come to light that there's nothing paranoid about it. It is reality. Food prices are going through the roof, and if they're bad now, they're going to continue to get worse. And we have had warnings, and there are some of us that recognized even before we've had serious warnings from food producers. We recognized that there was something off and started to prepare. Mind you, there's been preppers that have been doing this for years, and I don't know if they just do it habitually. I mean, that's all I was. I was one of those that just prepped for the coming year. Today, that's not the case. Today, I will prep for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever I can. And yes, prepping fatigue is setting in. But I know I have to fight that. I know I have to continue to do the best I can. And get through these times. My intent is certainly not to scare anybody, but to suggest that we all can do something, and it may not be great, but when you have countries that are warning their people to stock up on food, that's not something I've ever heard of before. Yes, I've heard them say stock up for a week in case of bad weather. I mean, in Canada, we've had situations where bad weather caused the electrical system to go down for a few days. And yeah, a few days was a long time to have it down, but I think the ice storm in Quebec was one of the worst ones that we had, and it was down for a month there in some places. But they still were not warning people to stock up on food and water. But now you keep hearing that from more and more countries. Stock up on food. They're telling their population to do so. And okay, so we've been through recessions in the past. I think that sometimes people go through their own personal recessions. I think I have. I have not necessarily suffered through recessions when the rest of the country has been, but I've had my own personal ones, and a lot of us have, where you have loss of incomes or loss of a home or loss of whatever, where you have an economic downturn, you have an emotional downturn, you have a physical health downturn, and that is your own personal recession that you have to overcome. Of course, when it's just you, there's always somebody around that maybe can help lift up your spirits or give you a helping hand or support in one manner or another. But when everyone is facing difficult times, it gets a little harder. So, and we're seeing that. And in spite of my prepping fatigue that I'm dealing with right now, and if you are, I would suggest you also try to fight that feeling. Don't settle for it. If you have to step back for a day or two, that's fine. That's healthy. Do something that lifts up your spirits, makes you happy. That's part of why I try to do some Christmas crafts and Christmas baking. Do something that lifts you up. And then focus once again on what you know you need to do for the future, perhaps for your own children, perhaps for yourselves, perhaps for your grandchildren, perhaps for your neighbor. There's a reason for everything. Perhaps I'm coming from a place where I'm extremely limited in what I can do, but I'm here willing to show you that something can be done. Okay? This is Tony from Her Homestead Skills, and I hope to have more fun Christmas stuff before it comes and goes, and I'm dying for some green. I think I've got to think about what seeds I have to plant very soon. I mean, it is way, way, way too early, but at least I could start preparing. Anyway, this is Tony from Her Homestead Skills. Hope you enjoyed this little video, and we will catch you on the next one. Bye for now.